Step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. The joy of living is the theme of AA's 12th step, and action is the key word. Here we experience the kind of giving that asks no rewards. Here we begin to practice all 12 steps of the program in our daily lives so that we, and possibly those around us, may find emotional sobriety. When the 12th step is seen in its full implication, it is really talking about the kind of love that has no price tag on it. Practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. This works when other activities fail. This is our 12th suggestion. Carry this message to other alcoholics. You can help when no one else can. You can secure their confidence when others fail. Remember, they are very ill. Life will take on a new meaning. To watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. We know you will not want to miss it. Frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives. As a result of practicing all these steps, we may have each supposedly found something called a spiritual awakening. There may be as many definitions of spiritual awakening as there are people who have had them, but certainly each genuine one has something in common with all the others, and this thing which they have in common is not too hard to understand. They have had a personality change sufficient to recover from alcoholism. A person has now become able to do, feel, and believe that which they could not do before on their unaided strength alone. And they have been transformed because they have laid hold of a source of strength they had hitherto denied themselves. The wonderful energy it releases and the ease of action by which it carries this message to the next suffering alcoholic is the magnificent reality of Alcoholics Anonymous. Even the newest of newcomers finds undreamed rewards as they try to help another alcoholic, the one who is even blinder than they are. This is indeed the kind of giving that actually demands nothing, because by divine paradox, this kind of giving has its own reward. To watch the eyes of men and women open with wonder as they move from darkness to light, to see their lives quickly fill with new purpose and meaning, to see whole families reassembled, to see the alcoholic received back into their community, and above all, to watch these folks awaken to the presence of an unconditionally loving higher power in their lives. These things are the substance of what we receive as we carry AA's message to the next alcoholic. An alcoholic who cannot summon the willingness to meet the conditions AA requires in seeking to recover from alcoholism still has an alcoholic mind. There is something the matter with their spiritual status. Here, though, the temptation is to become rather possessive of these newcomers. Perhaps we try to give them advice about their affairs which we aren't really competent to give or ought not to give at all. And it's we who are hurt and confused when the advice is rejected, or when it is accepted and brings still greater confusion. When other alcoholics place us in a position of trust, here again we are presented with the temptation to overmanage things, and sometimes this results in rebuffs or other consequences which are hard for us to take. But in the longer run, we clearly realize that these are only the pains of our growing up in the fellowship, and nothing but good can come from them if we turn more and more to the entire 12 steps for answers. Now comes the biggest question yet. What about the practice of these principles in all of our affairs? Can we love the whole pattern of living as eagerly as we do the small segment of it we discover when we try to help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety? Can we bring the same spirit of love and tolerance to our families, daily work, finances, and other responsibilities to the world at large? How shall we come to terms with seeming failure or success without despair or pride? Can we steadfastly content ourselves with the humbler satisfactions when the brighter, more glittering achievements are denied us? The AA answer to these questions about living is, quote, yes, all of these things are possible, unquote. We know this because we have seen pain and calamity turn to good use by those who keep on trying to practice all 12 steps. These are facts of life for many alcoholics who have recovered in AA. They can become the facts of life for many more. Of course, all AA members fall far short of such achievements as a consistent thing. Without necessarily taking that first drink, we may often get quite far off the beam. Our troubles sometimes begin with indifference. We naturally congratulate ourselves on what successes we have realized at home and at work. That only later proves to be a far too easy and superficial point of view. We temporarily cease to grow because we feel satisfied that there is no need for all of the steps for us. We're doing fine on a few of them. The first and that part of the 12th where we carry the message. In AA slang, this blissful state is known as two-stepping, and it can go on for years. Even the best intentioned among us can fall for the two-step illusion. Sooner or later, the pink cloud stage wears off, and things go disappointingly dull. We become puzzled and discouraged in thinking that AA doesn't pay off well after all. Then perhaps life suddenly hands us a great big lump that we can't begin to swallow. What then? Have we or can we access the resources to meet these calamities which come to so many? These were the problems that we could never face up to on our own. Can we now handle them with the meager efforts that we have put into our daily spiritual practice of strengthening our relationship with that power greater than ourselves that we claim to have turned over our will and our life? Well, we surely have a better chance if we switch from two-stepping to 12-stepping, and we are willing to receive that divine grace which can sustain and strengthen us in any catastrophe. Our basic troubles are the same as everyone else's, but when an honest effort is made to practice these principles in all our affairs, well-grounded AA members seem to have the ability, by God's grace, to take these troubles in stride and turn them into demonstrations of faith. Like most people, we have found that we can take our big lumps as they come, but also like others, we often discover a great chilling in the lesser and more continuous problems of life. Our answer is still more spiritual development. Only by this means can we improve our chances for a really happy and useful living, as well as undergoing drastic revisions to our old attitudes and instincts. If we place instincts first, we have got the cart before the horse. We shall be pulled back into disillusionment. If we are willing to place spiritual growth first, then and only then do we have a real chance. After we come into AA, if we go on growing, our attitudes and actions towards both emotional and financial security commence to change profoundly. Our demands for security had constantly created unworkable relations with other people. Either we had tried dominating those about us, or we had insisted on being overly dependent upon them. When our expectations went unmet, we blamed them, being quite unable to see that our unreasonable demands had been the cause. Our disillusionment had been hard to bear. We had failed to see that, though adult in years, we were still behaving childishly. We had refused to learn the very hard lesson that overdependence upon people is unsuccessful, because all people are fallible, especially when our demands for attention become unreasonable. As we made spiritual progress, we saw through these fallacies. We discovered the healthiest possible source of emotional stability to be our higher power, and it would work when nothing else would. The new outlook is something especially necessary to us alcoholics, for alcoholism is a lonely business, even when we had been surrounded by people who loved us. Unfortunately, our self-will drove everybody away, and our isolation became complete. We were still trying to find emotional security by being dominating or dependent upon others. Upon entering AA, these attitudes were sharply reversed, often going much too far in the opposite direction. The spectacle of years of waste threw us into a panic. There simply wouldn't be enough time, we thought, to make right all of our past actions to those we had harmed. Despite our best efforts to turn our will and our life over to a loving power greater than ourselves, we were still the victims of unreasonable fears, be they financial, emotional, or otherwise. When the distortion has been great, a long period of patient striving may be necessary. But today, in well-matured AA members, these distorted drives have been restored to something like their true purpose and direction. We no longer strive to dominate or rule those about us in order to gain self-importance. We no longer seek fame and honor in order to be praised. It is a wonderful feeling that we do not have to be specially distinguished among our fellows in order to feel useful and profoundly happy. Service gladly rendered, obligations squarely met, troubles we accepted or solved with the help of our higher power, are the proof that love freely given surely brings a full return. The surety is that we are no longer isolated and alone in self-constructed prisons, and that we need no longer feel like square pegs in round holes. For it is only by accepting and solving our problems that we can get right with ourselves, the world about us, and humbly in conjunction with God. Understanding is the key to right principles and attitudes, and right action is the key to good living. Our job is now to be at the place where we can be of maximum help to others, but we shall be of little use if our attitude is one of bitterness or hostility. Practicing all of AA's steps means the adoption of attitudes and actions that almost no alcoholic who is still drinking can dream of taking. Who wishes to be rigorously honest and tolerant? Who wants to confess their faults to another and make restitution for harm done? Who cares anything about a higher power, let alone meditation and prayer? Who wants to sacrifice time and energy in trying to carry AA's message to the next sufferer? No, the average alcoholic, self-centered in the extreme, doesn't care for this prospect, unless they have to do these things in order to stay alive themselves. Under the lash of alcoholism, we were driven into AA, and there we discovered the fatal nature of our situation. Then and only then did we become open-minded to conviction and as willing to listen as the dying can be. In step 12, we stand ready to do anything which will lift the merciless obsession of drinking from us, and to do so willingly. It is a simple program, but not easy. A price has to be paid. It means the daily destruction of self-centeredness. There is, however, a vast amount of fun about it all. There are some who would be shocked at our seeming worldliness and levity, but underneath there is deadly earnestness. Faith has to work 24 hours a day, both within and through us, or we perish. Most of us feel we need look no further for utopia. We have it right here and now. Our simple talk about these principles in meetings, coffee shops, or across kitchen tables multiplies itself in a widening circle of peace on earth and goodwill to our fellows. And today, guided by an unconditionally loving higher power, we are a necessary part of the divine scheme of things. Pass it on.